Imagine a room where the air suddenly gets thin, not because of a fire, but because a single person decided they would no longer play a role in someone else's drama. You've likely felt like you were always on the defensive, reacting to their every whim and mood swing. But there is a version of you that is so grounded, so deeply aware of the game being played, that you become the narcissist's worst nightmare without saying a word. We've all seen the standard dynamic. The narcissist pushes, and the empath bends. It's a cycle that feels infinite, like a script written in stone before you even met them. But what if I told you there is one specific type of person who can flip that script entirely? This isn't about being a warrior in the way you might think. It's about a psychological shift so profound that the narcissist's entire reality begins to crack. You're sitting there watching this because you've been through the ringer. You felt that hollow ache in your chest when they looked right through you as if you didn't exist. You've tried explaining your feelings, hoping for a shred of empathy that never came. But today, we aren't talking about your pain as a weakness. We are talking about how that same sensitivity, when fully awakened, becomes a weapon of absolute truth. Most people believe that to bring a narcissist to their knees, you have to outmanipulate them. They think you need to be colder, meaner, and more calculating. But that's a trap. When you play their game, they always win because they've been practicing since childhood. The only person who truly wins is the one who stops playing. This is the story of the awakened empath, the only soul capable of inducing a true narcissistic collapse. Think back to the last time they tried to gaslight you. That dizzying feeling of the floor moving beneath your feet as they rewrote history. Now, imagine looking at them in that moment and feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no defense, just a quiet observation of a very small person trying to act very big. That specific lack of reaction is the beginning of their end. It is the moment they realize their power was actually a gift you gave them. The narcissist relies on your emotional volatility. Your tears, your explanations, and your desperate attempts to be understood are the fuel that keeps their engine running. Without your reaction, they are staring into a void. It's like a vampire realizing the person they've been feeding on has suddenly turned into stone. They can't bite, they can't drain, and for the first time in their lives, they are forced to feel their own hunger. This person, this super empath, is not a myth. They are what happens when a kind soul finally integrates their shadow and realizes their worth is not up for negotiation. When you reach this level, you stop being a source of supply and start being a mirror. And there is nothing a narcissist fears more than a mirror that won't distort the image to suit their ego. They see themselves for exactly what they are: fragile, lost, and empty. When this shift happens, the atmosphere in the relationship changes instantly. The narcissist feels it in their bones before a single word is even spoken. They notice the way you hold your shoulders, the way you look them in the eye without blinking, and the way your yes and no become immovable objects. It's a terrifying experience for someone whose entire identity is built on the ability to move and mold everyone around them. We are going to dive deep into the mechanics of this collapse. We are going to look at why the narcissist eventually crawls back, not out of love, but out of a desperate need to reclaim the control they lost. This is about the beg, not the fake apology they use to hoover you back in, but the genuine, knee-shaking terror of a person who has lost their mirror. You deserve to know how this ends when you finally choose yourself. Stay with me, because this isn't just a lesson in psychology, it's a roadmap for your own liberation. You've spent so much time trying to understand them, trying to fix them, and trying to survive them. Now, it's time to understand the power you've been carrying all along. The only person capable of bringing a narcissist to a place of genuine, desperate apology is the one who no longer needs to hear it. Let's look at how that happens. To understand why an awakened empath is so dangerous to a narcissist, you have to understand what's happening inside that narcissist's mind. They don't have a stable core. Their entire personality is a collection of borrowed traits and defensive walls designed to protect a very wounded, very hidden child. They aren't a person so much as they are a performance. And every performance needs an audience to make it feel real. Your role, for a long time, was to be that audience. You provided the applause when they were great, and the emotional labor when they were victimized. You validated the lie they tell themselves every morning. But an empath who has found their power stops being an audience member. They become a critic who has seen through the special effects. They see the wires, the cheap paint, and the desperation behind the booming voice. The narcissist operates on a supply economy. They need a constant stream of attention, positive or negative, to keep the internal shame at bay. If you give them love, they eat. If you give them rage, they eat. But the awakened empath gives them something they cannot digest. Indifference. Pure, unadulterated indifference is like poison to their system. It starves the ego and forces the hidden shame to rise to the surface. You might think they have high self-esteem, but the reality is the opposite. They have no self-esteem, they only have external validation. This is why they are so obsessed with how they are perceived. The empath who knows this doesn't argue with the narcissist's lies. They simply observe them. They might say something like, "I see that's how you want to be viewed." This refusal to confirm the lie is what starts the internal rot. Most empaths are fixers. We see the brokenness in others and we want to heal it. The narcissist sniffs this out like a predator. They play the victim so you'll work harder to save them. But the turning point comes when the empath realizes that the narcissist's brokenness is actually a tactical choice. They aren't drowning, they're pretending to drown so they can pull you under with them. Recognizing this is a game changer. When the empath stops trying to save the narcissist loses their favorite tool of manipulation. They try to guilt you, but the guilt doesn't stick anymore. They try to shame you, but you know your own truth. This creates a psychological vacuum. The narcissist is left holding all their own toxic energy with nowhere to dump it. It's a heavy, burning weight, and for the first time, they have to carry it all by themselves. This leads to a state called narcissistic injury. It's not just being offended, it's a total breach of their psychic defenses. Imagine a knight whose armor suddenly turns into paper in the middle of a battle. That's what it feels like when an empath looks at them with pity instead of fear. Pity is the ultimate insult to a narcissist because it implies that they are beneath you, rather than the superior being they claim to be. The awakened empath understands that the narcissist's rage is actually a temper tantrum. It's a primitive defense mechanism used by a person who never learned how to handle disappointment or accountability. Once you see the monster as a crying toddler in a suit, the fear evaporates. And when your fear dies, their control dies with it. They are left screaming into a wind that doesn't carry their voice anymore. It is haunting. There is a deep, dark secret in the narcissist's psychology. They are terrified of being alone with their own thoughts. That's why they need you. You are the distraction. You are the project that keeps them from having to look at their own failures. When you detach, you force them back into that quiet room with themselves. It is the most painful place they can imagine. They will do anything to avoid it, even if it means begging. The breakdown happens in stages. First comes the disbelief, then the increased aggression, and finally, the realization that you are truly gone. Not just physically gone, but emotionally unreachable. This is the moment the super empath has been waiting for, not because they want to hurt the narcissist, but because they are finally free. The narcissist's collapse is simply the natural consequence of their own hollow nature. The turning point usually begins with a silence that feels heavier than any argument you've ever had. It's the day the empath stops explaining. You know that moment, the one where you're about to point out their hypocrisy for the 100th time, but you just stop. You realize that your words are pearls being thrown to someone who only wants to use them as gravel. So, you close your mouth and you just watch them. This silence is deafening to a narcissist. They thrive on the word salad, the circular arguments that leave you exhausted and them energized. When you refuse to engage, the energy loop is broken. They will try to bait you. They will say the meanest, most cutting thing they can think of, just to get a rise out of you. But the awakened empath just nods and says, "Okay." That "okay" is the sound of 1,000 chains breaking. Suddenly, the power dynamic shifts. The narcissist, sensing the loss of control, starts to panic. They might ramp up the charm or the threats, but it feels like they're hitting a brick wall. You aren't playing your part in the play anymore. The script says you should be crying or defending your character, but instead, you're just making a cup of coffee. You are living your life as if they aren't the center of the universe. This is when the narcissist starts to unravel. Their movements become more frantic. They might start calling everyone you know to smear your name, but even that feels desperate now. They are looking for a reaction, any reaction, to prove they still have a hook in your soul. But the hook has been removed. You've done the internal work, you've healed the wound they were feeding on, and now there's nothing for them to grab onto. The turning point is cinematic in its clarity. You see them clearly for the first time, without the lens of potential or love blurring the edges. You see the smallness of their tactics. You see the repetitive nature of their lies. It's like watching a movie you've seen 50 times. You know exactly what they're going to say before they say it. And because it's no longer a surprise, it no longer has the power to hurt you. Now, the narcissist begins to feel the void closing in. Throughout the relationship, they've used you as an emotional trash can. Every time they felt bad about themselves, they made you feel worse so they could feel better by comparison. Without you to dump on, the toxicity starts to overflow within them. They become irritable, depressed, or physically ill. Their own poison has no outlet, and it begins to consume them from the inside. They might try one last grand gesture. A fake health scare, a sudden realization of the truth, or a promise to finally go to therapy. To the old you, this would have been a glimmer of hope. To the awakened empath, it's just more noise. You see the pattern now. You know that these gestures are just more coins they're trying to put into the machine to get the supply they want. But the machine is out of order. This is the moment of the narcissistic collapse. It's a total breakdown of the false self. When the false self fails to secure the environment, the narcissist's reality falls apart. They can no longer maintain the illusion of being the hero or the victim. They are just a person who has behaved terribly and is now alone. The weight of their choices finally lands on them, and it is a weight they are not equipped to carry. You might feel a twinge of the old empathy. You might want to reach out and comfort them. But the awakened empath knows that comforting them now would only be an act of self-betrayal. You realize that their pain is finally their own, and it is the only thing that might, just might, force them to change. By staying away, you are actually being more empathetic than you ever were by staying and enabling their abuse. The shift is complete. You have moved from the position of victim to observer. You are no longer in the trenches with them, you are standing on the hill, looking down at the mess they made. This perspective is your greatest strength. The narcissist knows they can no longer reach you, and that realization is what brings them to their knees. They are finally facing the one thing they fear most, an absolute lack of control. A narcissist in collapse is a sight you will never forget. It's not the dignified sadness of a normal person, it's a messy, chaotic implosion. They might stay in bed for days, stop bathing, or lash out at anyone who will listen. But the mask hasn't just slipped, it has shattered into a million pieces. They don't know who they are without your reflection to tell them. They are a ghost wandering through a house they burned down. This is when the beg begins. But listen closely, it is a beg for survival, not a beg for forgiveness. They need you back because they are literally starving for external validation. They will cry real tears. They will say the words you've waited years to hear, "I'm sorry, I was wrong, I'll do anything." It sounds so sincere because, in that moment of terror, they actually believe it. They are desperate for a fix. The awakened empath handles this with a cold, surgical precision. You don't get angry. You don't mock them. You simply state the facts. Your actions caused this. I am no longer available for this dynamic. When you say those words without heat, without malice, it cuts deeper than any insult ever could. It's the finality of it that kills them. It's the realization that the door isn't just closed, it's been bricked over. The consequences for the narcissist are internal and devastating. Without a primary source of supply, they often experience what's called narcissistic mortification. It's an extreme form of shame that feels like death to them. Their ego, which was their only protection, is gone. They are exposed to the truth of their own behavior, and without their usual distractions, that truth is a scorching sun they can't hide from. They may try to replace you quickly. They might jump into a new relationship within weeks, desperate to find a new mirror. But the awakened empath sees this for what it is, a temporary bandage on a gaping wound. You know that no matter who they find, the cycle will repeat. They are carrying the same emptiness into every new room. Their victory in finding someone new is actually a sentence to keep living the same lie. There's a harsh truth here. The narcissist will never actually get it the way you want them to. They won't have a sudden epiphany about the beauty of your soul and the depth of their cruelty. Their apology is a transaction. They are trying to buy back their comfort. When you refuse to sell, they feel a level of defeat that is soul-crushing. They've lost their best asset, you, and they know they'll never find another quite like you. You might hear rumors about how bad they're doing. Friends might tell you they look awful, or that their life is falling apart. The old you would have run back to save them. The new you simply nods and moves on. You understand that their falling apart is the first honest thing they've done in years. It is the natural gravity of a life built on deception. You are finally letting the universe handle the consequences. The collapse often leads to a shame spiral. Since they can't take accountability, they turn into the ultimate victim. They tell everyone you were the abusive one, that you abandoned them in their darkest hour. This is their last-ditch effort to reclaim some supply from the outside world. But because you are grounded in your truth, their lies don't stick to you anymore. You are bulletproof because you know who you are. The consequence for you, however, is peace. The chaos that used to follow you like a shadow starts to dissipate. The air in your home feels lighter. Your sleep becomes deeper. You realize that the begging was the final test of your boundaries. By passing that test, you have graduated from the school of narcissistic abuse. You have survived the storm and come out the other side with a heart that is still capable of love. Watching a narcissist beg is not the satisfaction people think it will be. It's actually quite sad. You see the wasted potential of a human being who chose power over connection every single time. But that sadness doesn't pull you back in. It's a detached compassion. You wish them well, but you wish them well over there, far away from your peace. The collapse is theirs to manage. The future is yours to create. We've come to the end of a very dark hallway, and there is light here. You've learned that your empathy was never the problem. Your empathy is a superpower. It just didn't have a shield. Now that you've built that shield, through boundaries, self-love, and radical truth, you are a force to be reckoned with. You are the only one who can walk through the fire and come out not just unburned, but completely transformed. Healing isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about integrating the experience so it no longer controls your nervous system. You will still have days where the memories sting, but the sting is different now. It's a reminder of how far you've come. You are no longer the person who was tricked. You are the person who saw the truth and had the courage to act on it. That is a level of strength most people will never know. The final truth is this: the narcissist didn't break you. They just tried to use your light to illuminate their own darkness. But the light belongs to you. It always has. When you took that light and walked away, you left them in the shadows they created for themselves. You didn't win a fight. You outgrew a cage. And once you realize the cage was never locked, you can never be imprisoned by someone like that again. Moving forward, you will notice that your radar for these types of people is incredibly sharp. You can smell the inauthenticity from a mile away. You no longer feel the need to fix or save everyone you meet. You look for equals, not projects. This is the greatest gift of the awakened empath. You have traded your naivety for wisdom and your people-pleasing for self-respect. You are finally living for yourself. I want you to take a deep breath and feel the space you've reclaimed in your own life. Think of all the energy you used to spend monitoring their moods, walking on eggshells, and trying to keep the peace. All of that energy is now yours to use. You can paint, you can travel, you can sit in silence, or you can build something beautiful. The narcissist is a footnote in your story, not the main character. You are the author. If you are still in the middle of the storm, if they are currently begging or raging, remember this: their reaction is about them, not you. You are not responsible for their collapse. You are only responsible for your own safety and sanity. Hold the line. Don't let the tears or the promises pull you back into the cycle. You've worked too hard to get this close to the exit. Keep walking toward the version of you that is free. There is a specific kind of beauty in a survivor. It's a beauty that has been tested by fire and refined by truth. When you look in the mirror now, I want you to see that beauty. See the resilience in your eyes. See the softness that you managed to keep despite the hardness you endured. You are a masterpiece of survival, and you deserve a life that is filled with genuine, reciprocal love and absolute, unwavering peace. The narcissist may never change, but you have changed, and that is all that matters. You have reclaimed your power. You have silenced the critic in your head that sounded like their voice. You have learned that your worth is inherent and non-negotiable. This is the ultimate victory. To live a life of joy and authenticity after someone tried to steal your soul is the most powerful revenge that exists in this world. As we close this chapter, I want you to know that I see you. I see the work you've done. I see the pain you've carried. And I see the incredible future that is waiting for you. You are not alone on this journey. There is a whole community of souls just like you, standing in their truth, refusing to be dimmed. We are the mirrors. We are the truth tellers. And we are finally, beautifully, and powerfully at peace. The narcissist begged for your presence because they couldn't stand their own absence, but you chose the only thing that could ever save you, yourself. Your empathy is no longer a vulnerability. It is the compass that will lead you home to a life where you are finally, truly enough. Remember this always. A narcissist can only control the person who is afraid of losing them, and you, my friend, are finally fearless.